a story about how they became a Christian. Some come from drug addiction, alcohol problem, some broken family. But this is not one of them. I've actually never dealt with that in my personal life. And in fact, most of my family are Christian, or at least know about God, and they respect the family decision about it. And I grew up with a loving family, and my parents just loved me, and they'd show me how to love on each other, how to love people, and just even how to give when we don't want to give. And I can brag about my family forever, but that's for another time. So then, what is my story? I was born November 19th. Nothing wrong happened during the process, but as my mother would tell me every time, it was a painful 18 hours for her. And they always told me as soon as I got home, I was already trying to lift up my head when I was laying down to sleep. So again, you may be asking, what makes my story different for other people? As I got older, it became more apparent to my parents that I had a learning and a speaking disability. I couldn't really say my R or my S for either of them. With that problem, it really impacted me on my reading skills. And when I couldn't really understand what I was saying, it became hard for me to pronounce any words. In return, making it harder for me to speak. And when I wanted to speak, it was hard for people to understand me. So most of the time I just chose to not say anything or had my parents explain it for what I was saying. And I did get help at school, and I did improve over the years, but it was like fear had a hold on me. And I was so scared to be alone, and I was so scared to have to deal with it for all my life. And I hated it. I just dreadfully hated that I was slowly improving. I just couldn't get rid of it, that I could just be a normal person. I had fear. I had given fear over. I have let fear ruin my life at that time and tell me who I was. Fear had control over me. And to me, there was no way out. I had no reason to get better, I felt like I was just going to deal with it over and over and over. But as I look back, and I say this, I really wasn't depressed about anything. And for the most part, I was still happy. Even with all these thoughts that was going through my head like a merry-go-round over and over and over, I still chose to be happy. You may ask, why did I keep being happy? Even if with all these thoughts going around my head, why did I choose that? Well, to be simple, I didn't go by how I felt. I went by what my parents told me and what my Sunday school teacher. And that simply was just, God can use anyone if you just let him. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is it's about Moses. Moses was just this amazing man. I was impressed, like, wow, he led hundreds of thousands of his own people out of slavery into freedom, into the promised land, leading them to the promised land. He wasn't built up to be a leader. He was just a normal person that all he did was lead sheep. And one day God spoke to Moses with a burning bush and told him to go back to the Egypt and to lead his people, to set his people free. And Moses made all the excuses that he could sing atop of his head, but God had an answer for every single one. There was his most one that I think he was so devastated that he just felt like he couldn't do was his words. He had a hard time speaking. He had a hard time that his word to get out right, or even just his timid voice. And God did technically acknowledge it. But he said, it's okay. I got your brother Aaron to help you. And with me on your side, I will show sign of most wonder to that Pharaoh, to show him that I am in charge, that I am the king of kings, that my power is stronger. And for the first few times, Moses and Aaron did work together, and God spoke to them and showed them power and wonder to the Pharaoh. But as we see more and more of this, we see Moses getting more confident. We see him more building of himself. As we begin to see Moses take more of the leadership for him, Aaron took a step back, knowing that Moses was in charge. And in fact, Pharaoh finally gave in at the last trial and said, get out of here, I'm tired of the trial. I'm tired from taking stuff away from me and for hurting my people. Just get out of here. So, the people were free. They finally were set free from the slavery. They were finally going to live as God. They were going to finally be happy, joy, and they were going through everything. They got to the Red Sea, and they looked behind and they see the Pharaoh army and the Pharaoh also coming after them. And the Pharaoh had changed his mind. And the people began to blame God and Moses. And they say, how could you lead us to our death? We were better than Egypt. We were better to be slaves. We were better to let the fear take over us. We were better to let fear be in charge of us. And Moses couldn't stand for that. And he spoke out. He said, what? Have you lost faith in God? He had brought us this far, and he said he's going to keep his promise, and he will save us. You have got to trust him. Moses didn't let fear. He was seeing the army coming after him. He didn't let fear take charge. So Moses lifted up his staff, just as the Lord had commanded him, and he struck down, and at the Red Sea split open. And he guided them swiftly through the river. And from that point on, that Moses led them until they were ready for the promised land. Pharaoh, the fear, would sweep away in the ocean. That story inspired me so much. It's a simple story to me. A person who was once scared to speak out because they didn't think he could come up with the right words, or he was afraid to say the wrong sayings. But instead, he put his fear down. And he let God take control of him. It was that moment, it was the moment in time that Moses stopped overthinking. He stopped thinking about if he was going to say the wrong thing, if he was going to maybe say something wrong, maybe make a mistake. And he stopped. He just said, God, use me. Fear was no longer the option for Moses, because God was in control, and fear had to listen to God. He had to listen to the King of Kings. And now it's my turn. A person who has a learning disability, who has a speaking disability. It's my turn to let fear run. To stop listening to fear and chase after God. I have been called for many years to speak. And that is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to speak the living words from the Bible, from the Word of God that breathe life. And let God bring the dead heart back alive. My story ain't over yet. I still have breath in my lungs. And I had many more stuff that I had to go through to become a better man of God. And the boy who knew so much about God had now had to put the words into action.